Welcome to the Mentorship Challenge. I'm Marc Wainer. Remember, you can go to our YouTube channel to catch up on all of our previous interviews. Aside from mentorship, my other passion is education, and I'm more than delighted to have with me in the studio Stacey Brewer, co-founder and CEO of Spark Schools, who are really doing amazing things in the education space. Stacey, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Marc, for inviting me.
So, very interesting. You did a BSc at Rhodes University, a little bit wild place, I understand. And then you won a scholarship to go to Gibbs, where you did an entrepreneurial MBA.
Yes.
Then you, as part of your thesis, which was on education, you ultimately end up co-founding Spark Schools, which is a primary school education. Just tell the viewers how you came to that.
Sure. So Spark, actually originally, when we were thinking of a name to start our schools, thinking about Spark is here to create such a big change in the country, and so we were thinking, what is an appropriate word for it? And we actually then came across the William Yeats quote saying, education is not the filling of the pail, but the lighting of the fire. And so the name Spark emerged, and then from there we then aligned our core values exactly to the acronym. So our core values are service, persistence, achievement, responsibility, and kindness. So we are a non-denominational school, but we believe that these core values, if our staff and our team, the scholars, all demonstrate these values, we'll grow up to become great active citizens.
And your model is different, okay, because you embrace technology.
Our actual model is completely integrated with the technology that allows us to drive cost efficiencies within the system in order for us to be affordable to the country as a whole. And at the same time, it creates a very data-rich environment in order to differentiate our instruction. And so it really allows for individualized learning for each child. So we don't screen any of our children. It's a first come, first served basis. And we are showing that any child from any community can achieve. And it's through our differentiated instruction model.
So how do your fees, which I understand are about 20,000 a year now, compare with a really good, let's call it government school or other private schools? Where
Sure.
do you fit in?
So first of all, just going back, when we talk about affordability, we talk about affordability to the country. So we benchmark our total cost to educate on government's total cost to educate. And so you're completely right, we're 21,000 Rand for the year this year. In terms of, if we look at other government schools, so if you look at former Model C schools, they're a lot more expensive than us. Other private schools are 35,000 plus. So we're definitely in the lower end of the market in terms of a great offering, and especially for the quality that we are delivering.
So teachers, I mean, the teachers you recruit, because I think one of the biggest problems that we have in South Africa with education starts with the teachers. So do you recruit your teachers differently or from the same pool? So
we do recruit from the same pool. Legally, you have to employ qualified teachers in the classroom. So we ideally recruit graduates. And we actually recruit people based on certain characteristics, and we call them our GEMs. So we focus on grit, excellence, mission alignment, and self-reflection. And then when they come
very good with acronyms.
Yeah. And then when they come into Spark, our GEMs come into Spark, we spend about 245 hours a year training and developing our staff to then equip them for such a different model that the universities wouldn't have prepared them for anyway.
So you had a fantastic growth trajectory, because I think you started Ferndale 2013.
Yes.
We're now sitting going into 2018. That's 15 schools.
Yes.
Okay. How many pupils?
We are educating over 6,500.
6,500 pupils.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's growing.
4 years and growing. Did you have mentors?
Oh, yes. I believe that's the number one reason why I've personally been able to reinvent myself every year to be relevant to the company, and it's been key for me.
Do you think it was the mentor that probably, or mentors, who had the most impact on you?
I would say absolutely that mentors had a massive impact on me. So one of the biggest mentors to date, and has been part of Spark from the beginning, is Dave Gibb. He was our angel investor. I mean, he was there to bring me up when I was down and bring me down when I was up. So, really kept me level and really believed in me and what we were doing, no matter what. And I think it's absolutely essential to have that, because entrepreneurship, it's extremely lonely and you have dark, dark days, but you need that person, that independent person to remind you of the bigger picture. And someone like Dave has been key for me. And as Sparks evolved, I've really connected with different mentors for different stages of the business.
So if you could go back to 2012, 2013, would you do anything differently if you were starting again?
Of course, everything's great in hindsight in terms of making sure you get an even stronger team. Something personal for me is I probably should have trusted my intuition a lot sooner, but I've learned that over time. But I feel all the lessons have been key in the growth and where we are in the lessons learned are invaluable. Oh, of course, many mistakes. We make mistakes every day, but for me, I always say to the team, it's how we respond. And we need to make sure that we really plan and we think through the process, and we need to have our kids as a number one priority.
And don't make the same mistake
I don't
twice.
mistake, yes, exactly. And you've got to remind the team that.
So what made you go into this field?
So,
you did an entrepreneurial MBA and then go into education.
So I never thought I was ever an entrepreneur, number one, never mind ever going to get involved in education. But it was really during the MBA when I saw how bad education was in South Africa. I saw how much money we spend as a country, and yet we rank bottom of the world.
We are, I think, 6th in terms of what we spend and last in terms of literacy.
We're like one of the top. One of the top in the world in terms of, proportionally. And I was just saying it's unacceptable. So, it's not a big glamorous story, but for me it was just, I'm a responsible citizen. I want to grow up in South Africa. When I have children, I want them to grow up. We can't wait for anybody. It's just as my responsibility as it is the person next to me and as government. And so what can I do to create the change? And from there, the ball just started rolling.
Now we come to the crunch, and I ask you, how many of your hours are you prepared to pledge to mentor people who would like to enter the educational arena?
So I would like to commit an hour every 2 weeks. And I'm open to any budding entrepreneur, not necessarily someone in education.
So an hour every 2 weeks is 2 hours a month, maybe 2.5 because it's not exactly. So if I said to you 30 hours for a year?
For the year?
Yeah.
30 hours for the year I can do. Done. I can definitely do 30 hours.
Thank you before you change your mind.
I've got a side.
Okay, now, do you have anybody else, either in your field or any other field that you know, a friend, a colleague, a relation, who would make a good mentor?
So I would like to challenge our principals to mentor principals in government schools or other schools in the area.
That is fantastic. So what we're going, and there's 15 of them.
There's 15 of them. They don't know about this.
So we've got 15 principals, okay? So we are going to get the details of those principals and get them to pledge time, challenged by you, the boss, so they can't say no, and get them to mentor principals or teachers who aspire to be principals the Spark way.
Yes, absolutely.
As I say, I'm blown away by what you do, and I just wish you everything of the best.
Wonderful.
If you would like to be mentored by Stacy, please register on the website. And remember, you can go to our YouTube channel to catch up on all of our previous interviews, and then register on our website. It could change your life. With me in the studio is Lebo Gunguluza. Lebo, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
No,
it's great to have you.
It's a pleasure, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
So, you have a company called the GEM Group.
The GEM Group of Companies,
GEM Group of Companies. You're also known as the Breakthrough Entrepreneur.
Yes.
So, before we get into your business, tell us a little bit your background. Where do you come from? How did you get into this
My
business?
background, I think hence I'm called a breakthrough entrepreneur because I've had to break through many barriers in my life to be where I am today. And most people actually take it for granted when you're where you are because they just think you got
overnight success.
Yeah. And in most cases, for me, it was a matter where I was born in a very unfortunate circumstance where I was born in a, what do you call this? In the township behind the funeral parlor, which means behind dead people, in a shack. And I was raised by a helper for most of my first year or two because my parents were studying. So they couldn't raise me. And then what happened is that when my father finished studying, he was starting to do now well and started to work. And then he passed away. So then I was stuck with my mother, who was now a nurse. And then my mother raised us. There were 3 of us. And it was very, very tough. And then she panicked. And then because when my father passed away, there was some bit of insurance that my father had put against us for education, but she was going to use it for university, but she decided to use it to take us to a private school. And then, I found out my talent was creative communication. And when I finished my schooling, I went to University of Natal, and I came to Johannesburg, and then lights up, and I started engaging my opportunities in Johannesburg at the SABC, starting at the SABC.
Yes, I saw that. So at the SABC, you were in charge of the African language programs?
That's it, yeah.
And from there, you moved into the advertising space?
And that's it, which was a creative
space. On your own or on the job?
What happened is that, I then approached SABC. I said, look, SABC, I'm not earning enough money because you've promoted me from sales, you've made me brand communications, and now I'm marketing manager of Metro FM, but this money is still not enough. I want to go overseas and understand broadcasting in totality so that I can earn more money, because now this money is not enough. But fortunately, Head Boys Advertising recruited me. But after a while, I thought, you know what? I'm just not making enough money. I said, no, man, this is not right. I decided to quit. And then my company went down when I was 36, 37. And then I acquired a Premier Piat in Rosebank. And then I rebuilt the GEM Group. And when I was rebuilding the GEM Group, that's around 2009, 2010, for me, then I decided, you know what, do I want to chase being a billionaire, or do I want to teach a younger group of people behind me on what I've learned so they can also achieve the same goals as I've achieved? And then I started a program called 12-12-12.
I'll get to that now, but along the way you established yourself in the media communications.
That's it.
Uhuru,
That's it.
Publishing Sabona magazine and Metro and...
Well, what I did, in the first instance, how I built the company at the beginning where I made a couple of millions, is that I actually built the companies myself, but I never invested in any companies. So every company that I was involved in, I was building it myself, which gave me a huge amount of experience, but it also taught me a lot about where you should be spending your time and how much time you should be spending. I mean, all I knew is that, look, at the end of the day, you've got 24 hours. The question is, are you going to spend that 24 hours doing the work yourself, or are you going to get a lot of people who are highly experienced to do the work for you? So that was a new agenda for the GEM Group at that point in time. So I started employing very, very strong people. I focused my energy more on strategic issues, and then I built the company like that. And then I also started investing in companies that already exist, and I put key people to chase after new business to enhance value in those companies. As a result, what happened, I ended up with strong shares in those companies because of the value I've added. And that's how I got to build a very strong, that's how I got to build a very strong value system. They say shareholdership. And that's why they declared me to be, I think, I don't know, they said I'm worth 300 million because of all these shares that I hold.
So now tell me about your mentorship initiative, 12-12-12.
Yeah, I think the idea there was to make sure that I keep the entrepreneurs for 12 months. So what I did, I then decided, let me disband the current GEM Group of companies. Let me start a new GEM Group, but how I must start this, I must be inspired by a young blood, because this is the future now. So I started a program called 12-12-12. So 2 ways. It was firstly to give back, and then also to get these young people to be part of my office, and then mentor them, and then also build their ideas. So some of them, they would work on a business that already exists, and I'll tell them, look, change this business into something more new and something more innovative. And then you come with a new idea, I'll support and sponsor that idea. So I built that campaign for 5 years.
So it was 12 people a year for 12 months, and what was the last 12?
Running 12 entities.
Okay.
And I would monitor those entities. And invested about 8.6 million over 5 years around the investment in those entities. And then I chose some of the best products, and I kept some of the entrepreneurs that were strong now to be part of the new GEM group. And then I brought in some new professionals now into the GEM group that are in the tech space and innovative space. And then on the 12th of December, which is this last year, I then launched a new GEM group. But every 12th of December, every year, I used to introduce a new set of 12 entrepreneurs.
If you could go back in time to when you started, from the SABC onward, would you do anything differently?
I think I would not do anything differently, because each part of it has given me a variety of experiences to take me where I am. You know, I mean, it's been tough from time to time. I mean, it's life, it's business. And there are times where you find that the group was struggling and one had to think afresh. But I think the whole innovation, the feed from these young entrepreneurs that I mentored over the last 5 years have given the group a completely new energy. They've been making lots of mistakes, and I've had to pay a serious price for the mistakes because they were young. But I made sure that I learned in the process also.
What about you? Have you made mistakes?
Plenty of mistakes. I would tell people I've failed so many times that now failure is tired of me.
But the mistakes are a learning experience.
The best learning, I tell everyone that the best university for me was the University of Failure.
After the break, we'll continue this discussion with Lebo. So along the way, have you had mentors?
Actually, you know what? My mentors, funny enough, were the books that I read. I'll tell you why it ended up like that. When I was broke, after I squandered my first million, because I didn't have financial experience, I didn't know how to invest. It was the first time ever seeing 1.6 million in my bank account. So I just bought whatever, but I didn't understand that.
Motor cars, clothes.
That's it, and you must remember that.
Impress the woman.
Exactly. Once you've got $1 million in the bank and you spend 2,000, you no longer have $1 million in the bank. You've got less than $1 million in the bank. So after I finished that million, I was broke, and some of my cars that I had bought via whatever, they were taken away. I asked myself one question: how come I'm broke and yet these other rich guys like Branson and these other, they are sustainably rich? There must be a problem with me. And I asked myself, let me understand their thought process. So I then decided to go to CNA, to the bookstore there, to read about these guys, to find out, and then maybe I can learn how they think, which is, to me, then that became somehow my mentorship program. But I used to go there because I didn't have money. I was broke that time. I was even sharing an apartment with a friend of mine, after being a millionaire, by the way. So I went there, I would read a book, and then the ladies would say, sorry, sir, you have to buy this book. They would chase me away. I would go back to my apartment, change clothes, go back again, go finish that book.
Fantastic.
So I would do that about 3-4 times a day for at least good 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
So if I had to say to you now, to the people out there listening, which of the books you read that inspired you would you recommend to the people out there?
Without a doubt, Richard Branson, because...
Losing My Virginity.
Yes, because Richard Branson, the style for him was that you don't need to own a product to be an entrepreneur. And I try to say that to many, because in my case, I didn't have capital. So how can I own a product when I don't have capital? The most important thing to own is a market, which is what he does. He takes over a company, he puts his brand, and he markets the brand to his loyal fan base or his loyal base of customers. So he owns the market and brings that market to different product owners. As a result, he makes his money, the product owner makes his money.
It's a licensing business. He licenses the brand.
That's it.
If I have one criticism, perhaps, is that he, through his adventures and jumping off buildings or whatever, has become synonymous with the brand.
Exactly.
So is he ever able to exit, and will the brand carry on, is the real question.
Yeah. You see, for me, for example, what I did, then I diversified the brands, and I kept some of the brands, whatever they were. So I had this campaign of Izani, which is the brand that I've built, But I still kept another batch of companies that are not branded Izani, just in case something happens to the Izani brand, because he's been fortunate enough to keep that brand maybe unharmed for many years. But it's easy for a brand, one of the companies, to do something terrible, and then it affects the entire value chain. So what I did, I then created a number of other companies that I also bought into to try and diversify and manage my risk.
What advice would you give to people out there who want to go out like you did, start a business, be successful?
I always believe that you have to understand your customer or your target market, even the way they behave, even the way they pay. Because then you put their risk measurements around that type of customer. So if government is your customer, you better know that government delays in terms of payment, understand the way they operate in terms of how they get you to do business with them. So understand that kind of customer so well that no one can even infiltrate your customer, because you know what, and you also understand what they need in the future.
And so you don't get surprises.
Exactly. So that you prepare yourself for the future. A lot of my resources I invested back into building the group so that I can build as many entities within the group. To build a bank, it's costing me $5 million, just the first phase. Now, if I don't save, where am I going to get that money? The third king is compliance is king. Compliance is critical, and that's how you get business and how you get paid. Now, if you don't comply, if you do business, doesn't matter how connected you are to a client, but if you don't comply to those organizational requirements by that organization, you are not going to get paid, even if you did work for them, because you did not comply.
Lebo, it's been fantastic, and I've really enjoyed this.
Yes.
I'm sure, having listened to you, having listened to the way you started, the knocks you've taken, how you've come back, how you've reinvented your business, we must have dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of people who would love to have the opportunity of meeting with you, being mentored by you, learning from your successes, learning from your mistakes. So now I come to crunch time.
Yes.
How many hours of your time are you going to give us to mentor some of the people out there who are going to apply to be mentored by you?
Well, I've already given five years of my time. So is that in a year now?
That's in a year.
Yeah, so I can give 40 hours because I'm still passionate about mentorship, but the type of people, there's two types of people I'd like to mentor. Is people in the tech space and people in the property space, because I've just started a new project called PropTech, which means I'm developing a lot of property technologies to manage properties.
So can I apply to be mentored?
Come again?
Can I apply to be mentored?
If you're a youth and you are in the property space.
I'm young.
Yes, because I started a program for mentoring these young property entrepreneurs called the Enterprise Development Property Fund, where I can fund all these young property entrepreneurs. And they must come up with innovative ideas also, but also to back them up to be able to access old properties of government and manage them.
The property space really needs to be brought into the fourth revolution.
Yes,
because it hasn't changed that much over 200 years.
It's called PropTech, so I'm driving that campaign.
So thank you very much for your 40 hours. Next question for you. Do you know somebody who you think, whether they're in your space or another space, who would make a good mentor?
I know someone who was part of the 12-12-12 mentorship program. So they experienced a full good year with me, and they were extremely successful in the business they're currently running out of my program, and they work with the group. His name is Sanele Zulu, and he's the MD of what's his company, Tosasco or something like that, Tosasco Media, and he will make an excellent mentor because he already knows how he was mentored and how he can also mentor other people.
That's fantastic. We will be making contact with him. We'll tell him that you've challenged him.
That's it.
That you gave 40 hours, so he should give us at least 50 just to show you up.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Lebo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Your story is really inspiring. It's not often that you find somebody who acknowledges, I was the oldest guy to come out of school. Although that must have helped you with the girls.
Well, because I had advantage.
So you had that advantage.
Yeah.
You went through, you learned, you made mistakes, you paid the price, you've come
yeah.
back, and most importantly, you've given back.
That's
so
it.
Thank you. We'll be watching your progress with interest and wish you all the best and every success.
Thank you very much, Mark.
If you would like to be mentored by Lebo, please register on our website. It could change your life. And remember, you can go to our YouTube channel to catch up on all of our previous interviews. We'll see you next week.